If you clicked on this video, there's a chance that you're not a very good sleeper. Howdy, my name's Boster. I'm an MS neurologist in Columbus, Ohio, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 35 tricks and tips to help you get your snooze on. Don't turn away, because all of that starts right now. Good sleep starts with behaviors during the day. And so our first couple tips will really focus on daytime behaviors, which will allow you to sleep more effectively at night. Number one, try to get some sunlight, particularly during the morning. If you're able to spend some time in the morning exposed to natural sunlight, that will help solidify your circadian rhythms. And sunlight during the day is actually going to result in you sleeping better at night. If you live in a place like Ohio, where half the year you're not really going to see the sun too much, then I would recommend getting a hold of a happy light. These are relatively inexpensive lights that you can sit right next to you and spend a few hours each morning bathed in light. That's going to really help you sleep later on that night. Next, exercise is part of your lifestyle. There's good research to support the idea that exercising during the day helps improve sleep quality at night. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to join an MMA gym or try to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Literally going for a walk sometime during the day or doing a yoga routine is going to result in better sleep at night. Try it out. Number three is to avoid naps. Naps fracture your sleep cycle. If you absolutely must nap, I want you to limit it to 30 minutes. Literally set an alarm and make sure that you don't sleep too long. Some of my patients will share that they will nap for 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the day. That's not napping, that's literally sleeping. So try to avoid that as best as possible. Keeping with the topic of napping, if you must nap, don't do it in your bedroom. Sleep on the couch in the living room. It's important that we only associate our bed with sleeping at night or sex. And so I don't want you to get in the habit of snoozing in your bed during the daytime hours. Avoid stimulant medications in the second half of the day. Many people impacted by MS suffer from pathologic fatigue and can benefit from taking a stimulant in the morning to help them be more awake and more attentive. And that's a really useful tool. It's not useful if you're taking a stimulant after the noon hour. That's a recipe for being kept awake at night, which is really counterpoint to what we're trying to do here. Likewise, I recommend avoiding fluids after dinner. When you drink something, you'll make urine for the next 6 hours. So if you're drinking fluids in the evening and literally taking a glass of water to the bedside table, you risk being kept up at night having to pee because you're making urine all night long. If you drink the majority of the fluids that you're going to drink in the first half of your day, and you put the kibosh on fluids after dinner, you won't be making urine when you're supposed to be sleeping. Now, Lord knows that I love a cup of coffee or several cups of coffee, but I really need both of us to put the kibosh on caffeine after the noon hour. Caffeine is a stimulant, and if you're drinking caffeinated beverages, whether that be coffee, tea, or soda, after the noon hour, you're really making it super hard for you to fall asleep at night. So stop at noon. Avoid eating a few hours before bedtime. Eating a large meal and then going to bed is going to really interrupt your sleep. Try to leave at 2 to 3 hours between your last meal and when you go to bed. I'm not suggesting that you go to bed starving, but I am suggesting that you make sure that your dinner hour and your bedtime hour are spaced out. I need you to avoid alcohol after dinner. Sometimes people think that a nightcap might help them fall asleep, and in some cases it will, but here's the problem. Alcohol is a sedative hypnotic, and when it wears off, you'll have a rebound insomnia. You may recall that if you drink in the evenings, you wake up around 3, kind of wide awake. That's because the alcohol sedative effect has worn off. So avoid alcohol after the dinner hour. Many of you who follow the channel know that I strongly recommend against smoking because it can speed up multiple sclerosis. It's particularly important to avoid nicotine, however, before bed. Nicotine is a stimulant, and smoking before bed is going to wake you up and make it much harder to fall asleep at night. Avoid screen time at least 1 hour before bed. Blue light is particularly bad, but any light is going to help kind of wake you up. And so turn off the phones and stop watching TV at least an hour before bedtime. And this is going to help you fall asleep much faster and much more effectively. Hey, real quick before we go on, if you've found some value in this video, do me a solid and give it a thumbs up. That teaches the YouTube algorithm that you really like this content and helps push it out so more families impacted by MS can benefit. Thank you. Next, let's turn our attention to behaviors to prepare to go to sleep. I strongly recommend that you develop a bedtime ritual or a series of behaviors that you perform after you're done with your day before you get in bed. By doing this bedtime ritual, it's going to help you emotionally, mentally, and physically transition from I've been awake all day to now it's time for night-night. As part of that nighttime ritual, I would encourage you to take a soothing bath or a shower before bed. That is an excellent way to teach your body that you're transitioning from wake to relaxation and sleep time. As part of that nighttime ritual, I would journal before bed, or I would make a to-do list before bed. This allows you to get all those thoughts that are racing through your head down on a piece of paper so that you can take care of them tomorrow. By writing them down, you can kind of tell yourself, okay, I'm done with that for today. I'll pick it up when I wake up in the morning. Also, as part of that nighttime ritual, I would recommend keeping a gratitude journal. Write down 3 or 4 things that you're grateful for that day. Also, as part of that nighttime ritual, I would recommend stretching. Many people impacted by MS suffer from spasticity, and they can be woken from sleep with spasms or cramps, which obviously destroys sleep architecture. Spend a good 5 or even 10 minutes stretching out your back, your butt, your hips, your hamstrings, and your calves. Remember to hold each position for a minimum of 30 seconds. Doing that before sleep will cut down on spasms and allow you to snooze. Now let's turn our attention to structuring our sleep time for success. Number 1, and this is very, very important, you need to establish a set bedtime, a time when you go to bed, and it needs to be the same on the weekdays and on the weekends. We've finished our day, we've put our screens away, we're spending an hour or so going through our nighttime ritual, and then we have a set bedtime, and that needs to be Monday through Friday and on Saturday and Sunday. Likewise, we need to have a set wake time, and that wake time needs to not shift. You can't wake up at 6 every morning during the weekdays and sleep until noon on the weekends. That destroys your sleep architecture. And so you need to set a set time that you're always going to wake up at. Now, as you're setting your firm sleep time and wake time, make sure that the amount of time that you're in bed is adequate. If you're planning to go to bed around midnight and wake up at 5:30, that's not enough hours to get restorative sleep. I would really shoot for at least a snooze of 7 hours or longer. There's a lot of preparation that goes into preparing your bedroom to have successful sleep. Chief amongst them is to make sure that the room is not too hot. If the room is too hot, you're going to wake up sweating, tearing off sheets in the middle of the night. It would appear that the ideal temperature is somewhere between 65 and 68 degrees. Comfort is key. Make sure that you have a quality mattress and quality pillows. If you're sleeping on a piece of cardboard and your neck is all tilted, it's really going to interrupt your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Your bedroom needs to be nearly pitch black. We can't have any lights in the bedroom. Blackout curtains are very, very important. We need to make sure that you don't have a night light. And even if you have an alarm clock, turn it around so that red light isn't blinking and keeping you up. It should go without saying, but there are no screens in the bedroom. You should not have a television in your bedroom. You should certainly never watch television in your bedroom. You should not doom scroll on your phone. Remove all screens and leave them outside of your bedroom to get a proper snooze on. The bedroom also really needs to be quiet. We can't hear the TV in the living room because it'll keep us up at night. We can't have the kids screaming and yelling down the hall or the dogs barking if we expect ourselves to get restorative sleep. If that means that we need to have some type of sound insulation in the room, so be it. If that means we need to ask the family to keep it down, please ask them to do so. Also, we can't have interruptions during sleep time. It's not helpful to have a spouse that comes to bed a couple hours later and wakes us up while they're climbing in bed, or wakes us up as they're exiting the bedroom in the morning, turning on lights and putting on clothes. We need to avoid children and pets getting in and out of the bed at night. These interruptions obviously break our sleep architecture. Next, let's turn our attention to the activities in the bed. There are only 2 activities that we do in the bed: sleep and sex. And if you're doing them correctly, it should be really easy for you to sort out one from the other. We do not read in bed. We do not watch TV in bed. We do not doom scroll on our phone in bed. And importantly, we don't perseverate in bed. The bed is not a really big, comfortable couch. You need to train your body and train your mind that the bed is for sleeping. You need to do all those other activities elsewhere. Keep in mind, there's only 2 activities that we do in the bed. Part of training your body that the bed is for sleep is not to allow yourself to languish, laying in bed, tossing and turning. That teaches you that the bed is not for sleeping, it's for worrying. If you're in bed for 20 minutes and you're not having sex and you're not sleeping, you need to exit your bed and only return to the bed when you think you might be able to go back to sleep. This is a very important tool. Now, if you spent 20 minutes and you're not sleeping and you exit your bed, what you do once you leave the bed is very important. Don't turn on the lights. Don't go out and watch TV. Don't doom scroll on your phone. And don't decide just to give up and go to work. It's nighttime. You're supposed to be sleeping. I need you to sit in a relatively dark area, and I need you to do something kind of boring. If you want to read an analog book by low light, that would be okay. Don't turn the TV on, guys. If you wake from sleep, or if you've been in bed 20 minutes and you're not asleep, I would recommend that you try out something called non-sleep deep rest protocol. Do a quick YouTube search and you'll find several excellent examples. My favorite is by a podcaster named Andrew Huberman. I oftentimes will use this myself when I wake up. I'll set it on my phone and I'll listen and go through this meditative process of non-sleep deep rest, and helps me fall back to sleep. It'll help you fall back to sleep as well. According to my YouTube analytics, about half of you have subscribed to the channel. So if you're in that half, thank you very much. If you've yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. It's completely free. Just click that little button. Thanks. Now let's turn our attention to medicines. I mentioned earlier in this video that I need you to avoid stimulants after the noon hour. If you feel you need a sleep aid, I would strongly recommend that we shy away from prescription sleep aid medicines. I find much more success using natural remedies, such as melatonin, CBD, or magnesium. These are very natural and they can help us fall asleep, and they oftentimes don't have the groggy side effects when we wake up in the morning. There are a host of conditions which can cause disordered sleep. Many of them plague people impacted by MS. Chief amongst them is restless leg syndrome. Restless leg syndrome is a phenomenon that doesn't affect us when we're up moving around. It only really occurs when our legs are at rest, oftentimes when we're laying in bed. The human will develop a compulsion to move their legs, and that will build and build and build until they voluntarily shake their legs out or jump out of bed and walk around. And this is a form of torture almost, because it will keep us up at night. Bring this to the attention of your clinician, as there is a host of medicines that we can take to put the kibosh on restless leg syndrome. Likewise, we need to identify and treat obstructive sleep apnea. When you fall asleep at night, your muscles relax, including the muscles of your neck. And if they collapse too much, it'll cause you to snore. Snoring is trying to move air through a closed windpipe. And sometimes it's hard to move the air, and we can have an apneic episode and wake ourselves up from sleep. If you are a snorer, or if you have apneic episodes, or if you wake up with a headache and not feeling refreshed, we need to explore whether or not you may have obstructive sleep apnea. And this is easily treated with a device like a CPAP machine. As mentioned earlier, many people impacted by MS can have spasticity and be woken up with spasms and cramps. I mentioned stretching earlier in the video. Sometimes that's not enough, and we need to take medicines like baclofen or Xanaflex. These medicines have an additional advantage of making us a bit groggy, and taking them can massively cut down on waking up with a cramp. Likewise, many people impacted by MS experience various forms of neuropathic pain, and they can become very aware of pain when they're lying in bed trying to sleep at night. If you have neuropathic pain, consider a medicine before bed. Something like a gabapentin or a Lyrica can help a tremendous amount, decreasing those sensations and allow us to fall asleep more easily. Also, many people impacted by MS suffer from overactive bladder, which can manifest at night by something called nocturia. That's a doctor word for, oh my God, I get up a bunch of times to pee. There are medicines that can massively help with nocturia and overactive bladder so that we're not waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night to go empty our bladder. Fatigue is a monster in MS. And if you're not getting restorative sleep, you're kind of cutting your legs off before you even start your next day. We've just reviewed 35 top tips and tricks to help you get your snooze on. If you'd like to up your game and learn more about how to combat MS fatigue, click the video that's on your screen right now. And until my next Monday morning video, or my next live stream, or even better yet, the next time I see you at the Boster Center for MS, this is Aaron Boster saying be safe and take care.